And we're recording.
Yeah.
How are
Yeah.
you?
I need a nap, but this is going to be a long day. A long day.
What? Oh, because you're still working, right? So,
Yeah. And then we've got track and field practice later. And, Kyra and I usually walk while they're practicing, get
mhm.
that little bit of exercise in. So, it's just a long day.
Yeah, but that's a good long day.
It is. It is.
All
So,
right.
what about you? What do you got going on today? Are you just doing a bunch of video stuff today or just relaxing for
Uh,
the most part?
I think I'm going to. I have to do some like cleaning, as much as I can handle. And then otherwise, I don't know, not much. I have to stay up tonight because I work tomorrow night. So I will be probably napping again at some point so that
I
I
hear
can
that.
stay
Napping's
up
good.
tonight. But I made this, like, in the crock pot, this, like, chicken curry. So
Yum.
it's I made it yesterday thinking we would eat it yesterday, but then Jesus was so tired from all of his work that he ordered pizza, so I'm sort of reheating it right now in the crock pot, and then
Mhm.
I'll make rice and some veggies to go with it and stuff, so we'll have that.
I love it.
So I've got a little meal prep already happening, and then, I got some, like, kitchen cleanup to do because it's a little crazy in there right now.
I love it.
But, yeah, that's my day. Nothing crazy. Nothing too crazy.
Yeah,
I need
yeah.
some rest. My allergies are getting real bad because it's that time of year.
I know.
So,
I love spring. You hate it.
I absolutely
You're
hate
like,
spring.
no, it's just like activates the allergies.
I
Forget
hate
that.
it so much. It
Yeah.
doesn't know what temperature it wants to be. The atmosphere is oppressive. I just don't like it.
Yeah. I mean, okay, I will admit, I do hate the wishy-washiness of the weather during spring. That is annoying. Like we'll get that nice whole complete week of beautiful, sunny, warm, like almost perfect weather. And then bam, the weekend is like cold and rainy. I do hate that. I do hate that.
Oh, even worse is the fact that you start your day and it's 30 degrees and you end your day and it's 74.
Well, yes, that's true too. Mhm.
How am I supposed to dress for that?
I know. I know. I know.
I don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how I feel about that. Anyway, what are you
Mhm.
reading?
So, I'm reading this is this out
Computer's already
already?
bothering me.
Hang on, I don't even know if this might be out now. I think it is. I think it came out last week. It's called The Sicilian Inheritance. Yes, this came out
Mhm.
April 2nd. I had to read the letter from Dutton. Yes,
You've
thank you,
been
Dutton, for this.
Duttoned lately.
What I can count on Dutton to do is give me two things: a good nonfiction book and a good contemporary. They rarely let me down. Very rarely. So yes, this came out April 2nd, The Sicilian Inheritance by Joe Piazza. And we are following this woman who is really having a hard time. Her name is Sarah. She's a mother of one and she's recently divorced. She had a restaurant that was like really, really booming, and it's just like falling to crap. She's losing everything. And then on top of that, she just lost an aunt who she just deeply loved. And so she's having a hard time dealing with life. The ex-husband is difficult, and she's trying to figure out like what are her next steps. What is she
Mhm.
supposed to do now? So she gets this letter, and apparently there's a family home in Sicily, and uh no, there's some family land in Sicily. And so she's been asked by family to kind of go there and like kind of reset, recharge. And when she gets there, she begins to unravel some family secrets surrounding the death of her aunt. And what she finds out is or what she thinks what's going on is may have been murdered and not have just like died peacefully in her sleep. So not only is she on this
Not
mission to,
murdered.
yeah, not only is she on this mission to just kind of like get her own self, recentered and recharged, but now we've got this whole mystery behind what's going on with her deceased aunt. So I'm not that far in. I'm about 80 pages in, but I'm enjoying it so far. I'll see where it goes. And that is The Sicilian Inheritance by Joe Piazza.
Very interesting. And the
Yeah.
fun thing about you getting stuff from Dutton is that, like, I don't even see their lists, so for me, it's like books I've never heard of.
Oh, right. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
It's the same with, like, Catapult, like, I like when we have things that we both don't have because it's kind of
Right.
fun. You bring out these books and I'm like,
You're like,
"Ooh, I've
what?
never heard of that."
Yeah. What about you? What you got going on over there?
So I'm gonna talk about something we hopefully are both currently reading, and that is Evocation by S.T. Gibson, the author of Dowry of Blood. So I am about like just about halfway through,
Okay.
and I'm enjoying it. We're going to be interviewing the author next week as we're filming, so I don't know where it's going to be in our like publishing
Right.
episodes schedule, but yeah, I'm enjoying this. It's got like lots of witchy, magical, almost woo-woo vibes in some ways.
Mm.
It's got haunted housey stuff going on. I'm hoping there's a thruple, but I
Oh.
don't know. And it looks like it's the start of a series. Like this is book one, I believe. Um, from what I can see online, it looks like this is going to be like a proper series.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but basically, you have David and Reese who used to date in college and don't date in college anymore, and they're part of this like old boys sort of mm, spiritual coven thing where they like. So Reese is somebody who doesn't really have magic, but he's learned how to summon demons, and they have this like demon summoning circle. I don't really know what they do with it all, but
Yeah.
okay, cool. I love a good secret society. And then David is very wealthy and very like gifted. Like he was basically born a prodigy in magic. So they had a
Oh.
very tumultuous relationship in college. That relationship is done at the start of the book, and Reese is married to. She is she's got some like southern ancestral kind of magic going on.
Uh-huh.
She can see things, she can intuit things. She does people's like birth charts. I believe her name's Moira. Moira? Can I say people's names? Moira. There we go. And so they're together, and Reese and David, though they're in this society together, they are only allowed to associate on like society business. They're not allowed to socialize for anything else because of something that happened between all three of them
Mm-hmm.
um, in the past. So that's kind of how we set up. Something is happening with David, and he needs both of them. So they start to delve into their backstory, their own relationships, and with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to see some fun dynamics with this very boys' club thing, and some of the women in the lives of the men around, like in the society. Um, and there's a lot of talk of possible change. So it's giving me like really interesting vibes. It's kind of giving me Her Majesty's Royal Coven in some respects, in this idea of these secret societies and shaking things up,
Yeah.
um, going against the grain. There's some sort of discussions or back and forth with spiritualism and religiosity, because Reese is incredibly Catholic, but also there's this whole spiritual component of his life, right? So he summons demons.
Right.
And so it's just all very interesting. I'm kind of enjoying it all. It feels like there's a lot of groundwork being laid,
Mm-hmm.
which is always an interesting place to be in a book, but I'm very curious to see where it all goes. And I'm very excited to talk to ST Gib just ST Gibson, Saint. I don't know what to call her.
Well, I
Um,
tell you what, when I checked the mail yesterday and saw this, I jumped up and down for joy because I was not thrilled about reading the ebook.
I know you
So
weren't.
this made my day when I checked the
And
mail
it's not a
yesterday.
terribly long book.
No, it's
and
not at all.
and
It's under 300 pages.
I did really love, A Dowering Ballad. I
Yeah,
really liked this, Education and Malice too,
they're
though
both
I
good.
feel like the beginning of An Education of Malice was stronger than the end of it, but I still really, really enjoyed it.
Mhm.
Um, and so I'm very curious to see how this goes. It's interesting that she's centering or they're centering. I may get pronouns wrong. I have to look. Um, they're centering uh male characters a little bit more because I'm so used to the center being or to like our main characters being predominantly women. So that's really
Right.
interesting to me just to see that shift um in how they're telling a story, which is fun. I mean, it's interesting. And there's
Yeah,
definitely like haunted house things and all that stuff. It's fun. I get a good it's a good time. I'm trying to
I'm
see.
excited.
Oh, okay. She currently lives in New England. So I got
Okay.
that right. I got that right. So so
Okay.
yeah. So stay tuned for that interview. Stay tuned for full thoughts, all that fun
Yes.
stuff. And we have a
Yes.
special guest for that interview.
Indeed, we do. It's going to be a fun time. So I'm excited for that. Very excited
Yeah.
for that.
So thank you to Angry Robot though, because I mean
Yes.
they send us
Thank
things
you.
from the UK. I'd love we found Angry Robot when we read the cabinet
Yes.
for the podcast, and I've somehow gotten on their radar
Yeah.
for publicity and marketing of books and stuff, and, like, I could not be more thrilled, and it's super special to get books, but it's even more special to get books from outside of the US because that's,
I agree. Yeah.
like
They
like,
really don't
honored.
have to do it. Yeah. Yeah. They don't have to
And
do
that
it.
arc is stunning, like,
It is. I've never seen a limited edition proof copy.
I've only heard of them, I've never received one,
Yeah.
until I got this one, and it's beautiful. I don't think they ran a lot of arcs, and I was a little surprised when you showed me that one because I thought they were sort of out of those. They must have had a very small little pocket
Mhm.
left. I thought you would just get, like I didn't know if they had, like, a second run of just regular arcs or what, but
Yeah, I didn't even know
I'm
they had
glad that you
any
have a beautiful one.
special ones. Yeah.
Yeah,
I suspect this only happens really in the fantasy genre with like these kind of special
probably,
edition type arcs. Yeah. Well,
probably.
I'm excited. I'm excited. I enjoy Gibson's writing, so um I'm psyched to get into it.
Yeah, and, like, I kinda like David's kind of an asshole, and I kinda like him. Uh, this relationship that is developing between him and Moira is really interesting, um, and it's gonna be curious to see, like, how she deals with, like, the past of Reese and David, and that's kind of why I want them to have a for throuple.
Right, right.
I'm aiming for a throuple. I'm hoping for it. I'm gonna try to will it to happen. Not like it's not already written.
Well, my day is busy as heck, but I'm going to at least start it today just to get a few
Yeah,
pages in. Um, but yeah, I'm super psyched. I'm super psyched.
yeah. But I
Okay.
am glad that they sent us unlike you, I'm glad that they sent us ebooks because I really didn't want to bring that around with me, so it's because it's so pretty, so I have it on my book
Yeah.
phone, and I've been reading it on my book phone, so
Have you shared with the listeners about your new book phone?
my book phone? Okay, so maybe
Mm-hmm.
let's tell you about my book phone. So, this actually a friend of mine has this, and she was talking about it, and it got me very interested. So we all know that I love my scribe, right? Like I am team scribe. I'm not team the book that's currently teed up on my scribe, but I am team scribe, right? But this is a lot to bring to work sometimes and well most of the time to work and it's a lot to bring out and about all the time like
Mm-hmm.
like when you're just running errands. So, and I also am getting overstimulated by all the apps on my phone. So when my
Mm.
friend showed me her book phone, I got very curious and eventually I pulled the trigger and I did by myself. It is a Boox or Box Boox Palma. So it runs on Android. So it is phone based. So you can get like all your apps. So it's literally all of my reading apps. All the things that I would use anyway on my phone are on here, and then I just use this, and I try to put my phone away and not focus on that,
Yeah.
and it's been really lovely, and also, like, I can keep this out on my desk at work, and if I do have a minute, I can read a page or 2, or I can it's just much more convenient for kind of reading in the pockets of your time,
Mhm.
and I don't have to ruin my beautiful arc while I'm at work, so I
Yeah.
I am enjoying that. I started trying to figure out the, um listening to audiobooks yesterday. I don't know if I like it for that yet. I have a wired headphone that I'm going to try to see if I like that better because the Bluetooth seems to cut out when the phone goes into
Oh, so not a
and
really
I don't
strong
know.
connection.
Yeah, so I don't know if that's a I have to look into it. I have to talk to my friend about it because I remember she was saying that there was some fussiness with headphones and stuff. So yeah, so I'll figure that out. But
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it. I think that it's been a good addition to, like, my reading life.
Yeah.
Is it a
Yeah.
necessary? Absolutely not, but I'm enjoying it. So I have my little, like, e-reader family, and I'm quite happy with them, and they could not be more different,
Wow.
but but
Well,
I
listen,
I
I
I love
gotta
them.
I gotta tell you, I wish I really loved ebooks. Hmm.
They are convenient, so, like, sometimes you can't just whip out a whole ass book. And then I found that there were a lot of times where I couldn't whip out a whole ass scribe either. So this is a nice in
Right.
between. It
In
just like
between.
fits under my phone. And because there's moments at work when it's not absolutely insane and it's in between me having to do something specific like in my day where I can get like a couple paragraphs in, a couple pages in maybe, like a
Yeah.
chapter. I mean, it's not like you get a lot in, but like it's a little bit and that all adds up, right? So
Yep. Yep.
that's nice. And it's easier to,
Yep.
like, wait in line and read something, and I just don't do well reading on my phone. I know there's lots of people that read on their phone, but the screens really bother my eyeballs,
Yeah.
so I don't read on those. I prefer the e-ink paper page
That
thing.
is so interesting. And is the price point reasonable?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Okay. I'm wondering if
The
this is going to become like a really popular device in the bookish community. I've
I
never
don't
seen
think
anyone
so.
with it.
I don't think so because I think most people like that, like, middle range like, size of a e-reader. So,
Yeah.
like, the Oasis size, the Kobo size, that regular Kindle size, people like that size, and that
Yeah.
is quite portable, but it's not, um I don't really like it. It's weird, like, at that size, I don't like how little text I get on the page because my eyes are getting old and I can't, like, see as
Right.
well, and so I have to make it a little bit bigger. Um, but, like, on the book phone, it doesn't bother me as much, I think because it's just I know it's a small screen, so
Mhm.
I'm like, I really like my Scribe because I can put a lot of text on the screen and I before I have to flip. I don't like doing all the flipping because you get, like, all cozy in there, and then you have to flip, and I have the remote, but sometimes it's not charged, and then
You had that remote for a long time, I feel like.
I do love my remote. That's a key. So, like, key things you need with an e-reader, this is not the point of this episode at all. The key
Well,
things
it's about
you
reading,
need
so yes, it is.
so the key things you need is if you're an e-reader, I think, is, like, a good stand of some variety, like, whatever floats your boat to hold your Kindle. Like, if you're, like, a lay down, cuddly, snuggled in reader, um, and then you need the little remote to
Yeah.
change the pages, and then whichever e-reader makes you happy because there's so many of them out there. So, whatever makes you happy, and that's it. And then snuggle in.
Welcome to the world of e-reading. All right. Okay.
I mean, I used to when Kindle first came out, I, like, predominantly read on my Kindle, um, and I absolutely adored it. I didn't think I would, but I really, really loved it. It was incredibly convenient for commuting. I mean, I rode the bus downtown every day, and, like, then I was commuting on the train to the back to the city when I moved out of the city, and it was really convenient to have a Kindle over carrying a book all the time.
I
And I
gotta
still
tell
read
you,
cookbooks, but, like,
yeah.
and at that time, they were cheaper. It was cheaper to buy an ebook, and now the savings isn't as there as much as it once was.
So I've had 2 Kindles. I bought the very first Kindle, and I specifically bought it because I was in grad school, and I thought that instead of printing out all of the 1,000,000 journals that I had to read for classes for research, I would just download them and put them on my Kindle, and that's what I use my Kindle for, the very first one that I
Mhm,
bought. And then some years later, my good friend, she bought me a new Kindle, and I thought I would read books on there. But I've had that thing for like 12 years, maybe 15 years, and I've read like 5 books on it, 6 maybe. And even when I was commuting to work on the subway, on the bus, I just still always had a physical book in my backpack. I don't know. I just didn't it just never really clicked for me for continuously reading books on it. So, I don't know.
I thought
We did not connect in the way that I thought we would.
yeah, I thought I had my old Kindle over here on the side, and I was gonna show it to you, like, my original Kindle, my white with all the buttons, but,
At the bottom,
I don't know
yeah.
where I had a Fire, I have one of those somewhere. I had a Fire for a really long time.
Mhm.
Um, no.
Yeah.
Uh, I like I don't know, I go back and forth.
Yeah. I mean, it's good that you can adapt to all the different formats. That's
I just
nice.
I just like the convenience of it, like, it's
Mhm.
a different experience, I think, picking up a physical book and reading it versus a Kindle book, but I don't dislike either experience.
Right. Right. Yeah. Well, preferences, preferences. All right, let's get into today's topic.
What are we talking about today, Naomi?
Well, first quarter is over, so let's chat about our first quarter faves. We've got some books here. This was really hard for me, actually. I mean, it was really hard to narrow this down. This was very difficult.
When I
I
originally
struggled.
made my list, because I'm regurgitating a list. So if you follow me on Instagram, you know my list. You're just gonna finally get my thoughts. Um, I, it was hard. I will say there were a few that I wanted to include, and I tried really hard to be like, what stands out? Like closing my eyes and being like, what stands out?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm looking at at my stack now, and it was hard.
I mean, I definitely we've talked about all of these before.
Oh yes,
There's
there's nothing new.
nothing new here. So if you
Yeah,
are an avid listener or watcher of the podcast, you will
we've chatted
know.
about these. Yeah,
We've chatted about these. So,
yeah,
yeah. Wanna go first?
yes, and I'm gonna cheat, and I'm gonna tell you why.
I wonder how many of them we both have.
I know. Okay, I'm cheating with my first one because it's 2 books, but it's the same
That's right, I'm
author.
cheating. I have one that's 3, so it's fine.
Okay, great, because these are 2 memoirs. So this is Margot Jefferson. Her first memoir, Negro Land, and the second memoir, Constructing a Nervous System. I read both of these, I think back in January, and now I'm obsessed with her. Some years ago, this book, Negro Land, I don't know, I was probably down one of my little rabbit holes again, and this came across my radar. And I'd been looking for a copy of it, and I finally found one a few years ago. And then Pantheon sent me her second memoir a couple years ago, but I just read them
Mhm,
both this year, and I was really blown away. Negro Land talks about her experience growing up in an upper crust black family in Chicago, and just all the ins and outs of what that means and being a part of that very particular society. I just love how she kind of gives us like the real inside of what it's like to live in that society with a dad who's like a prominent doctor and a mom who's basically a socialite. It's very
Mhm.
interesting. And then we get to constructing a nervous system. And it's just, this is, I like how this is structured because what she's doing is she's giving us obviously more insight into her life and the life of her family, but then she ties it in with like black culture. So like she did this chapter on her dad and how he struggled with depression and how he would, kind of go in the basement and pull out his records and listen to music and just kind of like be to himself. And she was just kind of explaining how when she was younger she couldn't really figure out why he wasn't present and why she didn't really connect with him. And also how they didn't really talk about depression in those days. And then she talks a little bit about some of the music that he listened to. She is very particular in talking about Bud Powell and how he loved this album. And then she's talking about um how now that she is an adult, like she understands what her father was going through. She completely empathizes and sympathizes with the things that he experienced as a black man during that time, raising this family, being in his profession, being in that society. And then she at the end she's like, oh, and so then I'll put away the Buddy Powell album and I'll pick up Ella Fitzgerald. And then she begins to go on and kind of talk about Ella Fitzgerald and kind of what she dealt with as a black woman during that time coming up in the entertainment industry. And so she's just kind of weaving through, black culture with her family. And it was just so interesting how she structured it. I really love that. And she does that all throughout this memoir. So I really like her thoughts, her ideals. I enjoy how she writes. I enjoy how she tells a life story. And I'm just kind of obsessed with her now. And I need to read every critical piece she's ever written. That's what I need to do now. So I highly recommend both of these memoirs by Margot Jefferson. Negro Land, read that first, and then read Constructing a Nervous System.
Does she predominantly write nonfiction?
Yeah, she's a critic.
Okay,
Hmm. Yeah, and it's
because
funny because when I first came across Negro Land, I was not really aware of what she did. So I've just been learning more and more about her.
interesting.
Very, very.
Um, Again, I guess I'll start with my
With your
cheat.
cheat?
So my cheat is just the
Cheaters.
Farseer trilogy. Like, I obviously love this. I was gonna start Live Ship this week, but I started Malazan, but I will start it very shortly. I need to get into a little bit of Malazan so I feel comfortable and I don't feel like I'm gonna confuse the 2 while I'm reading it. But,
Right.
I shouldn't, I don't think, because I don't think that there's boats in Malazan, but we'll see. But if you don't know what this is, we follow Fitz, and he is a young, bastard boy of, one of the princes of, um, this world, and he has some particular gifts, and he becomes incredibly important to the fate of this place and the future of this place. And it's such a ride. It is a lush world. The magic system is very interesting. There are some magical creatures that are really quite cool. And it's just full of action and some of the most wonderful characters. And I can't believe it's taken me this long to read this. I have these out of
Mm.
order. It goes like that. But yeah, big chunky trilogy for those who do like fantasy if you've never read Hob. Um, and I have a whole world of books to get through now in this world of the Elderlings that
Yeah.
Robin Hobb has created. So I am enjoying that. I do need to find the last book in Live Ship though in the cover I want because I love these like super cheesy covers that they have. So if
Mhm.
you're like watching the video, you can see the cheesy original sort of covers of Robin Hobb. I like these. I like the really new ones that are very sparse, I guess,
Yeah.
kinda. But these I feel like I say this every time I hold up an old mass market paperback. We need to bring back these cheesy fantasy covers. There's just something special about them, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
Because I feel like people do really love them. Like, they I mean, like, come on. To
I
Boy
love
and
it.
His Wolf. I mean,
I
like,
love it.
I don't know, maybe I'm just an old lady, but I think that they're phenomenal, and I wish that we had more.
Yeah. Again, I'm so glad you're enjoying that series because that had been on your list for a while. So
Yeah,
I'm glad you're liking it.
and we like, not this past trip to McKay's, but the one before that, we got them all, so
Yeah. Yeah.
it would have been such a bummer to
I know,
have to
right?
unhaul them all if I didn't like it, so
Because you
I'm
really
glad I went
lucked
to
up.
Belgium.
You really
I
lucked up.
did, because we got
Hmm.
nothing the next time. I got so much Cobb in that one pass through McKay's a couple years ago, so we're still
That's how it
looking.
is, right? Like you never know. It's just like last year when I went to McKay, I go a few times a year and I walk in there and there's like six of the Malazan books.
Oh, yeah, and I did find some Malazans, but only 1. I didn't like, only, like, later, not the I need, like, 2 and 3, but,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Go, Robin Hobb. All right. So my second book is Interpreter of Maladies by Jhumpa Lahiri,
Mhm.
which is a collection of short stories. I have already talked about my obsession with this author. It lives on.
You? Obsessed? No.
Obsessed. I am reading her backlist. I need to figure out how I can become this lady's friend, her and Margot Jefferson. Like I need to make that happen. Great collection of short stories. We talk about immigration, we talk about marriage and families and community. It was really, really great. There are a few that really stand out for me in this collection. A Temporary Matter is one that I actually read 3 or 4 times. It was just so, like, I don't know, so heavy and so shocking.
Mhm.
And I also loved When Mr. Prezada Came to Dine. I just thought that was a short story that was like really full of heart. It really shows the strength of community bonds and making strangers who are lonely your family. I enjoyed Interpreter of Maladies, and I enjoyed Sexy, which is a woman dealing with being told that her husband has fallen in love with another woman, and just watching her kind of lose her mind over that. But I just really enjoy Lahiri's writing. So I've read 2 of her short story collections, and I'm just excited to continue reading more from her. But I highly recommend this. And this, I think this won the Pulitzer. I
I
think this
think sh
one the Pulitzer.
I know she's won a Pulitzer, so
Yeah, I think it was for Interpreter of Maladies. So if you haven't not read Jhumpa Lahiri, check her out.
so, I guess we'll go here and we'll get rid of the e-reader. So, Poor Dear by Claire Oshetsky.
Mm.
Love this book. I think about this often. I think about Chouette often as well, which is the first book, and it's just we talked about it before. I think that Claire Oshetsky is such a interesting writer. The way that she crafts story, it's I feel like these like hints of fairy tale to it because there's always this, or so far, there's always this creature element to it, and but it's not like a happy fairy tale. It's not even like a dark
Mm,
fairy tale. It's just there's just something about it that kind of maybe that's why I connect with it. Is it reminds me of stories, the first stories you get told as a person, and then
yeah.
these are incredibly grown up. Um, but this is the story of a young girl who makes a mistake, and she has to live with that mistake for her entire life. Um, and it's a very innocent mistake that leads to some very big tragedy. And it is her processing that.
Hmm.
The book, you never settled in it because poor dear is this like deer on her back that every time she tries to tell the reader the truth and be honest and open about what happened, poor dear comes out and is like, "That's not what happened. You're lying." And the story sort of repeats again, and you never quite know what is reality.
Mm,
But it's this wonderful look at like coping mechanisms and mental anguish, mental health, regret, being a child and not understanding the world around you,
Mm,
and then how some of those things carry on into your future, how you carry some of that weight with you forever. It's phenomenal. It's so good. I love it, and it's such like a short book. Her books aren't even very long. It's just very perfectly done. I adore it. So,
I love it.
or Claire Oshetsky. One day I will find myself a hard copy of both books because I do love them. But for now, Kindle.
Well, one day I'm going to read both of those because I remember when you talked about Chouette, and that one also sounds like a really, really good read. So one day I shall read both.
Yeah, Chouette's really beautiful. It's a really beautiful book, and I think as a mother, you'll probably relate to it even better.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Are those the only two novels that she has?
I believe so. I haven't found anything else. I think she only has 2 books.
Okay.
Um, so hopefully we will have more.
All right.
Mhm.
All right. Well, my next one, this might be a one that we have the same a little no, you read this last year, so you won't. This is A Little Luck by Claudia Pinheiro. But Alyssa also does love this book.
I do love that book. I just love Claudia Pinheiro.
She's fantastic. She's fantastic. I'm gonna read her entire backlist too. I have some books. But yeah, we're with what is her name? Mary. We're with Mary and um we we learned that Mary um has a past and it's a very complicated one. Um, Mary, who just lost her husband, were they married? Now I can't remember if they were married. Well, anyway, her partner. She just lost her partner, and they basically ran a school together, and so she's been sent back to her home where she was brought up and where she lived her former life to go and do whatever paperwork and processing and certifications that she has to do for another school that's trying to be a part of their educational program or system. And
Mhm.
as we go along with the book, it's slowly revealed why she has a different name, what she left behind in her home country, and what she's been dealing with and struggling with. And I think we're going to have an actual episode about this book, right? Are we gonna chat about
Eventually,
this?
yeah.
Okay,
Now
yeah.
that you're done,
So
we could do that.
I won't dive too deep in it. But we just get to see a woman deal with a very hard choice that she had to make due to a very tragic event. And we see how she moves through that and how parties involved also kind of seek out some sort of healing to move past what happened. And it was just a really heartwarming, heart wrenching, beautiful story. And as always, Claudia just makes you feel so much throughout the story. And that's A Little Luck by Claudia Pinheiro, translated from the Spanish by Francis Riddle. So stay tuned for an episode where Alyssa and I do a deep dive on this book.
It's so good.
It really, really is. And if
She's just
you have never read her other book, Elena Knows, Alyssa and I also chatted about that. That was one of our community reads 2 years ago, I
a
think.
while back now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you can check and listen to that episode or watch that episode on our YouTube channel. We stand Claudia Pinheiro. So
She's another one that is like a master storyteller. I really like the way that she puts together a story.
yeah.
Um, and A Little Luck is really good at, um, slowly adding on to the
Mm-hmm.
narrative as you go through, so you get, like, a little bit
Yes.
more every time, so you she keeps refreshing,
Mm-hmm.
what you already know and then giving you a little bit more as the story continues, and I love that because it's you can tell that the main character is also trying very hard to process something that I think she's tried very hard not to think about. So,
Mm-hmm.
you get to these points where she really can't go on anymore with the story. Um, and then, you'll switch to something else and then she'll go back to the main story of
Right.
what happened to make
Yep.
all this happen. And you get a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And it's so good.
Yeah. I also think that Pinheiro is really good in writing short form because this is only 250 and 8 pages, and the Lena Knows was also a very short novel. So,
Mhm.
but they feel so big.
'Cause they cover quite a bit and
Yeah.
they have, like, big topics. They have big
Yes. Yep.
things. So,
Yepper. Okay.
um,
What you got?
indigestion, hold on. Anyway,
Thumbs, anyone?
sorry. It would be nice. Anyway, so this one you might have, I don't know, but Martyr by Kaveh Akbar. I don't know if you read this in first quarter or end of last year, but we talked all about this on the channel, and
Mhm.
I don't know if I need to say much more about it, to be honest with you.
Right.
There's an
Hmm.
entire discussion that we had on it. There's an entire review on my channel. There is a lot. I
Okay.
really adored this. I think that it's a really interesting look at life and art and meaning and recovery and y- bits of like being an immigrant in this country. Iranian American politics, we get hits of that as well. It's I love this, and I am very interested to see what Kaveh Akbar writes next as a novel,
Yeah.
and I would like to read his poetry as well. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I definitely enjoyed this. I know that one of our commenters did not enjoy it as much as we did, which is cool. That's fine. Uh,
Hmm.
but I hope that it more of you enjoy it than don't. So,
Yeah.
because I think it's phenomenal. So,
It is.
yeah.
It is.
More if you want more, go listen to this video, okay? Or this podcast episode, because I'm not
Yes.
repeating myself, all right? Anyway,
We should have tried to get him
mhm.
on the show.
We should. He looks
I
like he's
regret that we
fun.
didn't. Yeah, I
He looks
regret
like
that we
he's
didn't.
fun.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
I feel like whenever somebody's
Um,
on Pour Over the Poured Over Cons podcast, I'm like, "They're too fancy for us."
I know. Pour It Over is so
You
great though.
you sent me last night, you wanna try to get Ocean Vuong on the channel,
Yes,
and,
I'm feeling bold,
I
Alyssa.
be bold for me because
I am.
I will probably just giggle the entire because we know I love Ocean Vuong. So I don't know if I would fangirl so hard, it would be so bad.
I
So
just think it'd be so great to
it would be
chat
really
with that.
interesting. And I think that Ocean Vuong has a really interesting story um,
Mhm.
to their life. And anyway, but that's not the point of this. That's not part of this episode. So
Just
don't let
putting
me
it
go
out
off
there.
on a tangent.
I'm gonna be bold. And as a matter of fact, my last two books, I wish that we could also have these authors on the show. All right,
If
so
you
um
could surprise me with Ocean Vuong, I would be amazed.
I'm feeling this really deep in my soul that I'm gonna go for it. Like as we get closer to like when the arcs are available, I'm gonna
Mhm.
request them, and I'm gonna just go for it. Gonna
Because if you
go
don't
for it.
know, listeners, there is a new Ocean Vuong coming out in next
Mm-hmm.
September, not this
Yeah.
coming September, which would be really cool because this September we have an Tokarczuk and
Yes.
um, a new Sally Rooney.
Mariana.
So if we
Oh,
had
right.
an Ocean Vuong and a Sally Rooney
Right.
and
When is
Tokarczuk,
Mariana's coming out? Mariana's is coming. Enriquez is also in September.
probably. And then when does private rights? When does that come out? There's a lot of
June or
really good
July.
stuff
There's a lot of
coming.
good stuff coming out. So excited.
So yeah.
The end of
Anyway,
summer and fall is going to be bananas for releases.
Bananas.
Okay, all right. My next one is Erasure by Percival Everett. This was the first Everett that I ever read a couple months ago, and I just think Everett is a brilliant writer. Very humorous, very smart. I enjoyed everything about this book. Thelonious Monk, the main character of this book, he is a writer. He writes very, highbrow technical books, and obviously there's no publisher clamoring, to get a hold of his stuff. So, but he's still plugging away at it, and something happens in his family that kind of changes the trajectory of his financial situation, and so there are other authors in his circle, black authors in a circle that are like really doing well, but they're like, really writing, some trash, if you will. And so
Mhm.
he has an opportunity to kind of flip the script, and he decides, okay, if you want a black book, I'm gonna give you the blackest black book you've ever read in your whole life. And he writes this ridiculous novel, which is also included in this book, which I did not know because nobody ever mentions that. And he doesn't think it's going to go anywhere, but they love it. They pick it up, publish it, and now he's just a worldwide sensation. This is a satirical novel about the publishing industry. A lot of them just rings so true, and I just loved it so much. So this is, I think, what, 25 years old. I don't know. This is an old novel, but
He
if
has
you've never read
written
it, pick it up.
so much.
He's so prolific. Prolific. I want to really get down to his entire backlist too. And I never see him out when I'm thrifting, like ever.
No, I don't either, and, so he's been touring around the UK, it seems, on his book tour right now, and I've had some friends who've gone and seen him talk, and it's really interesting because it seems that he is quite abrupt. It's I try to think of the right way to phrase this, like, I think it's weird for Brits because I think he's just quite American, like,
Hmm.
he in the sense that he's not going to be, like, overly fluffy or polite or,
Yeah.
any of that. He's if you ask him a question, he
He's
seems to
very
be
matter
quite
of fact.
direct. Yeah, quite abrupt, a matter of fact. That's the
Hmm.
answer to the question.
Yeah.
Um, he's not gonna, you know, prattle on about he's just
Exactly.
ask him like, if you were to get him the sense I'm getting is that if to get him to, like, really expound on something, you would have to ask him the most open of open-ended questions to really
Yes.
make him not
Yes.
just go, "Here's
Yeah.
my four-word answer to your
Hmm.
question."
That's right. That's right. That's right.
And then you look at his press photos, and he's very, like like, yeah, he does
Yes.
not look like the kinda guy who's gonna mess around, right? He's not the kinda guy that's gonna blow smoke up your ass, like
Exactly, exactly. But man, he's got so many books in his catalog, and I guess I'm just gonna have to order them all because, I so
I just
remember
gonna
when I
have
was
to
in
find
my
them all.
well, remember when I was first going down my Western rabbit hole a few like back in
Uh-huh,
2019, and so
uh-huh.
during that time, I was on some like Western, related blogs, and Wounded by Percival Everett having recommended on some of these Western book blogs quite a few times. So my first foray into Percival Everett was trying to track down this book called Wounded, which is supposed to be like a Western or something. And so since 2019, I never see him when I'm out thrifting or at McKay. Like never. So
Mhm.
I'll be on Abe looking for deals.
Yeah. No, I never see him. But speaking of Everett, I have James.
I want the
He's
UK edition of that as well. I'm gonna be honest. I gotta get it.
I do
Have
like
you
that.
seen that
That's the
cover?
orange one. Yeah, I do like that
Yes.
one.
Oh my gosh.
Um, but I mean, I first of all, I can't believe how early these arcs went out from Doubleday because I've had this arc for a very long time.
I got it in
And
June.
yeah, and but anyway, finally read it this quarter and I love this past quarter, I should say. And oh my god, is this good. This is the I don't even wanna call it a reimagining, but it is sort of a retelling,
Mhm.
reimagining of Huck Finn from Jim's perspective, and it really holds a mirror up to American culture and racism and, um, the dynamics between, uh, blacks and whites at this time, but then also how absolutely similar it is to everything that happens today. It gives Jim a voice and, um, humanity in a way that
Mhm.
perhaps he doesn't get from Twain, and I it's phenomenal. I mean, I
Yes.
didn't think anything would ever make me want to actually go back and look at Huck Finn because I don't really particularly like Twain,
Yeah.
and I kinda do to see wherever it is playing with things where he diverts from the original text, all that.
Mhm.
Because I mean, there's some phenomenal moments in here, and then because it's Everett, and I just feel like he's so good at this. There is this humor in it, and I don't even know how to particularly articulate it because, like, one, I think he's making fun of us, but then I think he's also just making fun, and that adds this, for lack of a better term, levity to it in moments where it could just be absolutely crushing, and you don't have to have that like trauma porn kind of feeling, which you could easily go
Right.
into. Um, but it doesn't undervalue any or like undercut any of the stuff that's actually happening in the book. So it's this very
Yeah.
delicately, beautifully done humor. And he's definitely poking fun at
Yes.
at you know the white audience reading this. And rightly so. So it is it is phenomenal. Love this.
Yes.
I've read The
So
Trees
good.
and this, and,
Mhm.
you want I have to read Erasure next, according to
Yes,
Naomi.
you do.
Um,
You
but I
do,
will
you
say
do, you do.
the last line in this, I legitimately cheered, and I've watched a couple of my friends get to the end of this online. They're like, "I just finished James," and, like, like, DM them, I'm like, "So, that last line." Because
Yeah.
it's so simple and so powerful.
Mhm.
Um, and I love
Yeah.
James, I should say. I love
Yeah.
James, and, yeah, it's phenomenal.
I am so happy that James is getting so much buzz and that people are really loving the story.
I mean, I would be happy if this was on the Booker,
For sure.
'cause
For sure.
I would hazard a guess that it won't be because it's, like, too American.
Mm. Mm.
And these are my thoughts, and then, I think Martyr could be a contender.
I think this could go on the Booker.
Is that your
I
next
do.
one?
Yeah.
You wanna talk
My
about it?
last one. Yes,
Your last one?
again. This is Victim by Andrew Boriga. I still don't think I'm saying that right. Anyway, Javier Perez is a high schooler and he lives in a not great part of town in the Bronx. Um, I feel like JLo just heard me say that and she wants to chime in about being in the
Oh
Bronx.
god, my orange string.
And Javier goes to this really great school and he wants to be a writer. And so he's got a fantastic English teacher who's like kind of mentoring him and helping him get prepared for that. And he's helping him write his interest essays and whatnot. And his English teacher is trying to explain to him like what you need to convey when you're writing these kind of essays. And Javier is taking it as basically like, okay, so like I need to stretch the truth, right? Because what you're saying
Mhm,
is I had this one thing happen to me in my life and I need to expound on that in a way that really makes whoever's reading this like really feel something for me. And so
mhm,
this one little moment where he like kind of like tells these little white lies just continues to progress and grow throughout his life and his career, and he ends up making some really poor choices and his life just kind of implodes. And I just loved everything about this book, about Javier, his mother, the friends that were in this book with him. I just loved this story so much. It is heavily annotated. I had so many thoughts. There were so many good quotes in here, so many wonderful scenarios, and I'm still thinking about this. And I read this like 3 months ago, and this is definitely going to be a favorite of the year for me. So anyway, that's Victim by Andrew Origa. I wanted to actually had should have had him on the show. Should have had him on the show.
I
And
feel
at
like
some
we say
point,
that
I'd
all
like
the
for you to
time.
read this. I know.
I'll get there.
Yeah,
Hey,
at some
maybe if it
point.
is on Booker, I will definitely get to it. I do think that Booker is really interesting because there's always a ton of upsets. And I also think that because we are American, so if we have a very American centric view of
Yeah.
books that are coming out, and we will particularly have things on our radar that we think should be there, and the
Mhm.
judges, um, maybe are not as in tune to that. And also, like, are the publishing houses sending those in? We don't know.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'll be curious to see. I don't think you'll see both Everett and Akbar on there, but I feel like one of them might end up on the long list.
I feel
I
like it
would
might
hope
be
that one
murder.
of I would hope that one of them's there.
Yeah.
But I would it would be weird to me for both of them because they are, American soundtrack stories. I just feel like,
Yeah.
and we don't have the same judges, obviously. So
Right.
these judges, we don't know how to read them yet. And it does seem like International Booker was a bit all over the place, a bit like a
Mhm.
little obscure. So I think we'll see some weird things maybe we haven't even heard of like we did last year, which is kind of
But
fun.
kinda
But
yeah,
anyway.
but kinda heavy on the Latin American reads, which is good.
Yeah, yeah, and so we'll see. We'll see what happens. You never really know. It's kind of fun to
Yeah.
watch us all kind of come up with our theories for these prizes, and then especially with Booker, like, people just losing their minds when it's not certain
Mhm.
things on there, but,
I know.
anyway. But I
So
would be
funny.
hopeful that, one of them is on there,
Yes.
hopefully. We'll see. But anyway, so
Yes.
my last one is Against the Loveless World,
Oh,
by Susan
yes.
Abuhwala. I can't say her name, I'm sorry, and I apologize for butchering that. Um, this is phenomenal. We've talked about this before. I read this as part of, my little Patreon, and it is this gut-wrenching story about a Palestinian woman who is at first living in Kuwait and then has to flee to Jordan and then eventually goes back to Palestine. And then while she's for the first time she's really living in Palestine, she doesn't really have connection to her home. And then once she gets to Palestine, she starts to, um, her eyes are opened up to everything that's happening to the people, her people in Palestine. And she gets wrapped up in what one might call terrorism and another might call like freedom fighting, standing up for yourself,
Mhm.
protecting your
Mhm.
your family, your culture, your homeland. And it alternates between the story of her life and her being in this cube, um, arrested by the Israeli government. And it's an absolutely inhumane place. And it is the kind of story that you are going to cry and
Yeah.
you will have to force yourself to put it down. And I mean, I think you plowed through this. I forced myself to go slowly through this because it is the kind of book where you can easily just keep turning the page and turning the
Yeah.
page and turning the page. And I wanted to savor this and to give
Mhm.
it lots of time because what a story. And the
Mhm.
ending of this is so bittersweet, is the best term I can give it.
Yeah.
Beautiful book, important book, especially right now. And please read it. If you're not already reading it, please read it. So, yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep, yep. Good
Oh,
stuff.
yeah. It is a good book. Beautiful book, good stuff. First quarter was good.
First quarter was fantastic. I have no complaints.
I'm sure I can come up with something.
Have I read anything that I didn't like? I don't know. I have to look at my list actually. But so far so
Uh,
good.
I didn't like Weird Fucks. I didn't like A Study in Drowning. I'm just looking at my thing.
I've heard some really weird things about weird fucks. A lot of what I heard was people had such a high expectation and thought they were really, really gonna like just dig that book, and it fell flat for a lot of people. Um,
It's so stupid. Like it is boring
that
and
I hear that.
it it is it's like you go when you go to a party and you don't know anybody and everybody's talking about people you don't know and you're just kind of standing there like, "Oh, cool story." That's what it feels like.
Oh, okay.
Cuz like everybody she talks about in this book there's all these like people that she references like you should know them. I
Right.
don't know them because I'm new to this party. I don't know who you are. I don't know who
Right.
Greg is.
Like, I'm new on
So
campus, lady. I don't know.
I don't really particularly enjoy it, but that's okay. I don't have to like everything.
That's right. You do not. You do not. Wow.
Madam, what are you so she just came running out of this bedroom like a bat out of hell. What
Well, she wants to know what's going on, so
she also did not like weird fucks.
right? Yeah, but I don't know. This is a really good year. Some interesting things are coming out. So I'm super excited about that. Super excited.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
I've never had so many pre-orders ever, but we've had this conversation on the show. We did a whole episode talking about some of the books that we have pre-ordered for the year, and it's definitely triple what I normally pre-order. So,
yeah.
but I think Mercy approves. So,
Mercy,
all
for
right.
anybody watching the video, you can see Mercy. She is getting ready to ask me for a WALK, I think. So we
Mm-hmm.
will do some book recommendations and then I'll take care of you. Mhm.
Yeah.
So
You want me to go
what you
first?
got? Yeah.
All right. Okay. I am just moving right along in the Dublin Murder Squad series by Tana French. So I finished book 4, which is called Broken Harbor. Here's what I like about this series. So it's not a detective procedural where you're following one detective throughout the entire series. Each book is a different detective from this murder squad. And
Hmm.
I've listened to a couple of interviews with her, and so what she says is she chooses a different detective from the squad for each book, and they're kind of like really they're it's about like the worst case like they've ever had in their career, right? The one
Mhm.
that like you never stop thinking about, the one that never leaves your mind. So I kind of like that because initially because my old coworker recommended a series to me like I don't know 8 years ago, and I initially thought it was we were following one detective, but that's not the case. This is pretty cool. So in this book Broken Harbor, um Scorcher and his partner Richie, they get this call, they go to this house and they get in there and there's a woman who was like severely hurt, and then there's a dead man and 2 dead children. And on the face of it, when they walk in there, it kind of does look like an open and shut kind of case. They thought it was going to be a very simple case to wrap up, but oh no, things get really tricky, really deep. The wife pulls through, and as they go back and examine that house, there are so many things that are just out of place and that create more questions as to what really went on. And then after interviewing neighbors, it turns out this is an extremely complicated case, and it's like you can't rely on anyone. This is also set in a neighborhood that used to be called Broken Harbor, and it's where Scorcher grew up, and so he's got a
Hmm.
lot of memories that aren't so great about Broken Harbor. And this book deals heavily with mental illness. His sister has dealt with mental illness their entire life. So when the sister sees this news story about this case, it kind of sends her reeling. And so while Scorcher's trying to work this case, he's also trying to ensure that his sister doesn't completely go off the rails. And he's really just having a hard time juggling all these things, in addition to having all of these memories and flashbacks about his mother, who was also mentally ill. I mean, the guy is going through it. So it was a really good story. I love how in each book, it's not just about the case, but you're also getting a very good sense of what's going on with the detectives that are working this particular case. So you get like the full scope of what's going on for everyone involved. And I think Tana French is kind of like a genius at that. So I loved it. Book 4 is boom, checked off the list. I shall be moving on to book 5, which is The Secret Place, and I'm just loving this. If you've ever wanted to read a thriller series that has more meat on the bones, I would definitely recommend Dublin Murder Squad series by Tana French. You know, meat on the bones. This is not a popcorn thriller. It's not like that. So if you want something a little bit more, I highly recommend picking this series up.
I will get there
However,
eventually. I will get there eventually. So last night, last night I finished. Well, I started and finished this because I needed something. I needed a breath of fresh air. So I read Good Material by Dolly Alderton, which is the newest Dolly Alderton.
you left
Um,
me. Why did you leave me? God dang it.
I'm sorry. Did you read it?
Cont- no, not yet.
Well, you can read it today.
No, I can't. Okay, continue. I'm listening.
So, like true to Dolly Alderton, this is about relationships. This is about a breakup between Andy, who's a comedian, and Jen. I just want to make sure I get this right. I think it's Jen because there's a Jen and like a Jane, and so just to get this straight. And Jen is she's got like a really high up job in insurance for like shipping companies. So she's
Mm,
like the corporate girly, and he's the artist guy. He's not even like a good comedian in the sense that he has like a successful career. He is, doing all these weird whatever gigs he can get. So he'll be like doing a corporate like awards dinner MC and like working people's weddings and like he
oh,
gets
he's
some
on
really
that
interesting
level.
jobs.
Yeah.
And then he's also doing, like comedy gigs.
Yeah.
It starts with this breakup and Andy goes off the rails. He's trying very hard to like grasp how this relationship has just ended and why. And he's absolutely in love with Jen. He tries to move on.
Mm,
Um, and like that's very difficult. And he's also 35, and all of his friends are like married or in serious relationships or married with children. And so he feels kind of left out. Jen, at some point, Jen does move on and he finds this out, and then he has to kind of cope with that. But then also, like, his best friend, Avi, and his wife, Jane. Jane is friends with Jen. This is why it gets confusing. Jane is friends with Jen, and Avi and Andy are obviously like best friends. And so they are kind of always in orbit of each other, Jen and Andy, in some way, through their friend group. Which that is also a very interesting thing to look at in breakups because there's like, who do you end up with? Like when you
mm, mm-hmm.
cultivate a relationship with somebody
Yep.
over a number of years, it you start to intertwine your life so much, and then how do you untwine that? And then so that gets complicated, and it's just interesting. I mean, I think that like Andy drinks entirely too much, especially in the beginning of this, and he may be a little bit whiny as a character, but I do
Mm,
like how Dolly Alderton like looks at relationship, and I do like the way that this ends. Not to spoil it for anybody, but I do like the way that it ends. She doesn't make anything like neat or like happy ending. It's very realistic. At the end, you get the last chapter is actually Jen's perspective on
hmm.
everything. So that's a really nice piece to add into all of this to really get the full understanding of what happened in this relationship. Um, but there is like a satisfying kind of resolution between them in a
Yeah.
way, but it's not like a super it's not like a romance, right? Like
Yeah.
this is lit fic. So it's a very realistic look at a grown up relationship breaking down.
Hmm.
Um, and I just loved it. I think it's like a really nice breath of fresh air. Like I read the first chapter of Malazan and I was like, I can't do this. I'm not having fun with any of my books. I need something that's gonna be like just pleasant. And so like this
Yeah.
is just it's just a nice read. It's a good read. I really liked Ghosts. I thought Ghosts was hilarious. I related to it so much looking back on dating post divorce and like I
Hmm.
just like in that age group. And even this I related to a lot of it
Yeah.
in a lot of ways because I mean I think I don't know if I was 35, but I was about 35 when I got divorced. So like and so like there's things like if you've ever been in your 30s thinking everything's going to be fine and then you get
Yeah.
like sort of the rug pulled out from underneath you, like it is a weird time. it's a very weird time to become single again.
Right.
Um,
Right.
because, everybody's kind of paired up. For the most part, people have not started going through the divorces yet. That like wave of divorces seems to be like after 40. And so like
Mhm.
you're kind of in this weird little bubble of life and what do you do? Um, and then also like he is like an artist. And so he is kind of adrift. Like, it's not like he's on his feet. He's gotta find a place to live and he's gotta gotta continue to make a living. And
Right.
um yeah, it's just I enjoy it. I like Dolly Alderson's writing. I don't think that this is like earth shattering in any way or life
Yeah.
changing, but it is just a good time. I think I will always read Dolly Alderton because I just enjoy her. Um, yeah,
I like it.
read it.
All right.
I look forward to you reading it so I can talk about it like more
Yes.
explicitly, like than just trying to give you guys some generalities. But yeah, there's some good stuff in here. And then I think like I've got a couple of things I flagged. There's some stuff that his mother says that's really lovely, like Andy's mom, that I thought was really nice. Um, Good solid mom advice, which I really
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
enjoy. Yeah. So yeah, pick it up, enjoy it.
All right.
It's out now.
I look forward to it. All
Oh, we
right.
gotta wrap this up so I can walk Mercy
Yeah.
before the next
Gotta
one.
walk the dog. All right, guys. Let us know what your faves are from the first quarter of this reading year. We would love to know. Do we have any books in common from first quarter?
Yes.
Let us know. Let us know. Anyway, follow us everywhere at TBR Lowdown and visit our website, tbrlowdown.com, and share this with a friend or two or 17 because today is the 17th. Yeah, do what feels right in your soul. Okay. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. We're out of here. Bye.